Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into the polyethylene market for the first week of August 2026. Whether you're a converter, a trader, or you're overseeing a massive supply chain, the data we're looking at today is absolutely critical for your bottom line this week. We are seeing some really fascinating contradictions in the market right now, and our job here is to cut right through that noise. So let's dive in.
Everything we're unpacking today comes directly from the latest intelligence at Polymer Bazaar, which is built entirely on three pillars: price, prediction, and profit. We aren't just looking at the raw numbers, we're looking at exactly what those numbers mean for your purchasing strategy. It's all about using real, data-driven insights to keep your supply chain empowered and ahead of the curve.
Here's our roadmap for today's World Tour. We'll kick things off with global PE trends, check in on the Western bazaars, head east to look at geopolitics, zoom way in on Indian dynamics, and finally, wrap it all up with a strategic purchase outlook.
Let's get right into our first section, global PE market trends. We are currently staring down what I can really only describe as a demand and price paradox.
Okay, so here's the core of that paradox. On the one hand, we've got super dull converter demand globally, right? Buyers are hesitant, purchases are weak, and honestly, there's just a distinct lack of enthusiasm in the bazaars. But on the flip side, rising feedstock and freight costs are stubbornly pushing prices up anyway. It's a totally counterintuitive setup. Normally, you'd expect low demand to drag prices down, but right now, these external pressures are just completely overriding that logic.
Moving into Section 2, the Western bazaars. Let's see exactly how this paradox is playing out across the US and Europe. Looking at the US bazaar on an FAS Houston basis, the narrative is really striking. For high-density PE, converters literally aren't buying, demand is flat out low, yet prices for blow molding, injection molding, and film grades, they are all up. Linear low-density PE is kind of the odd one out here. Dull demand, but fundamentals and prices are just holding steady. But then look at LDPE. The conditions are totally muted, yet prices are climbing. Why? Purely on the fear of near-future feedstock cost hikes. The market is literally pricing in the fear, not the current demand.
Across the Atlantic and Europe, priced on an FDNWE basis, it's pretty much the same dull picture. Buyers are actively hitting the snooze button and postponing purchases. But again, because ethylene and overall feedstock prices are expected to jump, HDPE and LDPE prices are still creeping up. Now, the really interesting little anomaly here is right at the bottom. While C4 grades of LLDPE are stable, or even ticking higher, the metallocene grade actually dropped. It's a rare pocket of relief in a firming market, and it proves that even in a broad macro trend, you've got to watch the specific grades.
All right, next section, geopolitics and Eastern markets. We're looking at disruption and cautiousness here.
Over in the Turkey bazaar, on a CFR basis, the geopolitics are front and center. The data shows a massive, direct impact from the ongoing USA-Iran conflict, which is causing severe freight disruptions. That alone is injecting huge uncertainty into the market. Processors just don't know what their future business direction looks like, so buying remains incredibly thin. Yet, because the freight situation is such a mess, HD and LL prices are forced up, even though LD is somehow holding stable.
Now, I want to throw a specific number at you: 8,303 RMB per metric ton. That is the current China spot price for high-density polyethylene. I'm bringing this up to show you what a market looks like when those crazy external feedstock pressures actually back off a bit.
So to round out the East, look at China's off-season dynamics right now. Unlike the West, the feedstock cost pressure here has actually eased up, but it hasn't exactly sparked a buying frenzy. Because it's the off-season, buyers are being highly cautious. It's strict need-based purchasing. For context, alongside that HD price we just talked about, the LD spot sits at 10,200 RMB, and LL is at 8,053 RMB per metric ton. It is a night-and-day difference from the panic pricing we're seeing in the West.
Okay, let's zoom in on our main event today, Indian bazaar dynamics. Alarm signals are definitely flashing, and major revisions are underway.
First, let's set the baseline with the latest overseas offers coming in. Imported LDPE film offers for August shipments just got stronger. We're talking around $1,360 per metric ton CIF Navashava and Mundra. Imported costs are definitely climbing, and that's the perfect setup for the domestic shockwaves we're about to look at. And here is the direct domestic fallout fresh ex-works price revisions from domestic PE producer RIL, effective August 1st. We are seeing big jumps across the board here. HDPE, up 3 rupees a kilo, with other grades up 1.5. LDPE
is up 2 rupees a kilo. But man, look at the EC grade. It's jumping 4 rupees a kilo, and LLDPE is taking a uniform 4 rupee hike. If you are managing budgets right now, that is a massive hit.
So how is the bazaar taking this? Basically, it sent an absolute alarm signal through the market. Participants are actually bracing for even more hikes. The buying pulse is being driven by a weak Indian rupee and the ongoing volatility in the Middle East. Combine all those macro factors with the fact that retail stocks of LD and L are just totally insufficient right now, and what do you get? Open bazaar premiums are popping up everywhere. Converters are reading the tea leaves and deciding it's better to buy now before things get even worse.
Which brings us to our final section, the strategic purchase outlook. Let's turn all these global data points into some highly actionable advice for your operations.
Let's piece this puzzle together logically. Step 1, you've got to recognize that local demand is strengthening. Step 2, factor in the very real current retail shortages in key grades like LD and LL. Step 3, look at those global feedstock fears and local premiums. You absolutely have to anticipate higher ex-works prices coming down the pipeline. All of this leads directly to Step 4. Our definitive advice is that converters should continue buying right now. The data is pretty clear. Waiting is just going to cost you more money.
I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. When strengthening demand and real localized shortages are actively pushing ex-works prices higher, can your supply chain honestly afford to wait? In a market stuck in this weird demand and price paradox, acting early and taking data-informed action is basically your only shield against margin erosion.
Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. If you want to maximize your profit and stay ahead of these rapid shifts, definitely head over to PolymerBazaar.com or just reach out directly for PE leads across India using the contact number listed. Have an absolutely fantastic weekend, keep a close eye on those markets, and I'll catch you next week with more Polymer Insights. Take care.